Hey everybody, Tony D and Little Joan here with your final hot take of the evening. Let's just go over the election as it stands now, 9:55 on a Friday night. They're recounting in Georgia. They are recounting in, well, they're suing in Pennsylvania. Are they recounting too? I think they're recounting too. They're definitely doing stuff in Michigan. Um, Today, Rudy Giuliani had another common sense episode, and he talked exclusively about Michigan, so he drills down in that pretty good. The violations in Michigan sound really, really bad. They've got at least two very solid witnesses who actually worked in these polling places and were there for most of the election and saw egregious stuff. Um, the lawyers who worked for Trump in PA are being doxxed and harassed. So there's a bit of a jumble there that may disrupt things. So hopefully they'll get back on track. I don't see that as a major problem for them. I just see that as a delay. And if anything, that's going to help them in court because they're going to say, well, Your Honor, our lawyers are being harassed. And I'm telling you, judges do not like that as a rule. So anything that jams up the works is bad for the Democrats. If all these states rule quickly and efficiently, the Republicans could be in trouble if they lose enough of these, you know, cases. If they just drag this out, it's likely people will throw up their hands and say, wait a minute, we have to investigate all this stuff. And then they'll go, well, there's no time. Therefore, we have to go to the Supreme Court and see what they're going to do. At that point, I think the Supreme Court will throw it to the House and Trump wins because the delegate system is one vote per state. And as you can see on the map, well, actually, it wouldn't be this map, but let me show you the counties. Yeah, most of the country's red. In case you didn't know it, most of the state legislatures are Republican. And they would put Trump in power. If they vote along party lines, which they would be likely to do. Pennsylvania, I don't think there's any way they're going to certify it for Biden. There's a Republican state legislature. There's a lot of corruption and bias unless they can come out with real answers why all this happened. If by some miracle they eliminate votes, but they don't eliminate them all, then maybe, but I doubt it. I think the Republicans are going to just dig their heels in and say, no, we'll give it to Trump. There's been all sorts of nastiness besides the lawyers. There's been lists. I mean, these people don't know when to quit. And let me tell you something, it's hurting your cause because each day this goes on, each day Biden is exposed as an absolute phony for calling for unity while all this stuff is going on. He should be out there if he was really confident in his win. Here's what Biden would do. He would say, come on, people, stop all that. We don't need to do that. They're just going through the legal process and it'll be fine and we're going to win. They're not doing that. Instead, they created this ridiculous office of the president-elect, which doesn't exist. They're hammering people in the media. They're hammering people on Twitter. There'd be no reason to do that unless when you were confident of a win. There's just no reason to do that. No one would care. You'd just be like, well, Trump's just wasting his time and money. Let him do it. Let him do it and get it over with. If you were confident in a win. The problem is no one's confident in Biden. They know he stole the election. They don't care. They don't care. I'll tell you right now, if you ask the average Biden supporter who still supports Biden, a lot of them don't now, and you said, Biden cheated in this election, they'd be like, who cares? I hate Trump. Get rid of him. That's their attitude. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to them as long as they win. And that's why there's nothing behind the Biden win. There's not enough. There's no energy. Most of his supporters are going to go home, or they're protesting in the streets against him already. The handful of hardcore Biden supporters that are really, a lot of people have been predicting massive riots after, Trump wins this, myself included. But after I thought of something today, if a lot of these Biden supporters do go home and say, F it, we lost, and just throw up their hands in frustration and say, screw it, on top of the fact that there have been a significant amount of Biden voters coming out and saying, "Oh, I knew if I had known about the scandal and all the horrible things he's done, I never would have voted for him." Woo! I don't think those people are going to riot if Trump wins. They're going to be like, "Oh, thank God, I'm an idiot and I voted for the wrong person, and I'm so glad Trump got in." So I don't think there's going to be that many people to riot. I think, there'll be some rioting, but I don't think it's going to be on the massive scale as everybody's predicting. I think the left will be pretty exhausted by the end of this process. I mean, I think Portland and Seattle, oh yeah, they'll go up like a tinderbox, but the rest of the country, yeah, there'll be some riots, but at that point, there'll be no reason to stop them. The election's over. The Democrats have no reason to let it go any further. That strategy has been proven totally pointless, so they'll crack down. I don't think the riots are going to be that bad. However, if Biden succeeds in stealing this election, and I think it will be truly stolen, he will be a very unliked president. He is likely to face a hostile Senate and likely to get absolutely obliterated in the midterms. I mean, obliterated. At which case, he's looking at impeachment if he's even still in office by then, which I think that's a strong possibility. He's out. He'll just be out. So, it's... And you look at these headlines, it just keeps pouring in. Let's see. There was a report. Well, here's under pressure. Trump lawyers quit in Pennsylvania. That was the big news story today. Young Kim defeats Gil Serenos in another victory for Republicans in Orange County. So there was another victory for the GOP. CNN made a comparison to the Trump administration and the bad guys in Germany during World War II, which was just dumb. The vote count in Georgia is going on, but they're not doing it with any real observation going on. They're just doing it without any Republican observers. The 2020 election was, quote, the most secure in history, according to the federal election security officials. But at the same time, the head of the FEC said that there was voter fraud. So which is it? I mean, I think the head of the FEC, his voice in that matter is important. You've got the guys in the Lincoln Project calling what Trump is doing a coup, laying the groundwork for the narrative after Trump wins. You got China thanking Biden for winning. I mean, it's just absolute chaos. Absolute chaos. The only thing that's not happening is there's not really all that many riots. Antifa is up to no good in Portland, of course, but it's not on the massive scale that you would expect. Things have kind of settled down. But if you listen to Rudy Giuliani's podcast, you'll hear of all the egregious, or some of them, not even all of them, because there's so many of them. The Detroit voting system was an absolute S show. And I think the Trump administration knew it would be. Same thing in Philadelphia. They basically said, well, find us the most corrupt places in the state and we'll turn our guys on to them, and we'll record everything we can, and then this will be a perfect avenue to challenge things. They got challenges in all the states that are important. Still, challenges in Arizona, Nevada, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Georgia. And they finally called North Carolina and Alaska for Trump, as if it would go to anybody else. I think they're likely to flip them all. Or at the very least, Georgia's going to be a tough one. I didn't think Georgia would be as tough, but looking at the very densely packed Dominion voting systems in that state, I think they really stole the election in Georgia. I mean, they're gunning for Georgia, the Democrats. But I think Trump's going to win. Now, a Trump presidency without the Senate, that's going to be a tough presidency for Trump. He's really going to have to grind down people. But right now the GOP has 50 senators, so with Pence as a tiebreaker, they're fine. But with all the recounting going, and there are elections still being called. If I was a Republican in this race, man, I wouldn't concede. No way. No way. Not with all the, and especially if I was in one of those states, forget it. So I think you're going to see weeks more of this. Weeks more. I think you're eventually going to see things start to either flip or threaten to flip. And that's when it's going to start. You know, we're going to start to hear rumblings of, will it go to the Supreme Court? Will it go? And that's when you could expect everyone on the left to freak the F out. They're just going to go, oh, he's stealing the election. It's a coup. It's a coup. We don't know what words mean. We don't know what a coup is. Because that's not a coup. A coup would involve the military. And no, replacing the heads of a few of the Pentagon departments is not using the military to take over. Trump did that because of the recent scandal. They lied to him about the troop levels in Syria. I'd fire all those guys too. I'd throw them in jail. That's bad. That is really bad. When you have people within the administration, within the bureaucracy, the deep state, whatever you want to call it, actively undermining Trump and countermanding his orders. He is the commander-in-chief. You have to listen to him. I would say the same thing if Biden was in charge. I mean, I don't think he should be. I think he's horrible, but I wouldn't want, a tank commander to suddenly say, well, F this, unless he was ordered to fire on civilians or something, but that's not going to happen. That doesn't happen. What happens is they put him in such awful positions, they end up doing that on their own because, it's just so crazy and intense. They don't know what else to do. What we should do is get them out of all those situations by bringing them home. And that's exactly what Trump was doing. There's a reason he was nominated for peace prizes over and over again. It's because he's actually doing peace. This is exactly why they need him gone. They do not want peace. And with Biden back in the seat, you can guarantee that he'll push everything back in the other direction as hard as he can. The globalists and the media will call him wonderful and brave and stunning and so compassionate for doing so, even while he blows up kids. That's the reality. So do you have Biden's regret yet? Biden voters? No, well, you will, because his entire cabinet is full of lobbyists, the worst kind of people who shouldn't be in Washington, the kind of people Trump drove out. They're all coming back if Biden gets in. So we need Trump to win this thing, and I think he's got it. I think he's just going to jam it up in the courts, and so in terms of the map, I don't even think the map's going to matter. At some point, the court's just going to go, you F this up. The vote's a total S show. We can't trust when the ballots came in and who's wrong, who's for Biden, and who's for Trump. We're gonna have to send it to the delegates. So I look forward to that. And somebody asked me to set the odds. I give it an 85% chance. The reason I only give it an 85% chance is because there is a chance that the court will rule against Trump. They'll just rule against him. There's a slim chance it won't get to Supreme Court. I think that's very slim. I think it's a 99% chance it's going to the Supreme Court. There is a tiny chance, probably like a 5% chance, the court will just be like, oh, we can't rule in Trump's favor. That'll look bad. And they'll just be cowardly and they'll just say no and he'll lose in a 5-4. I think it's 95% likely they'll throw it to the delegates. And then there's maybe a 1% chance some of the delegates revolt and it never happens. The reason, though, for the other percentage, there's always some chance that something will happen. I mean, it could be something really, really awful. I mean, they could really do something terrible to stop him, or they could just, they could launch their own coup. I mean, I don't think they would, but I think, there could be some event that clinches it for them somehow, whether it's, something to do with the judges or some kind of maneuver we haven't seen yet. I doubt it. And these servers that were seized in Germany, if they're not going to come into play during the court proceedings, I think they already have, and they already have this locked up. Maybe they're going to reveal that. Maybe that's their trump card in court when they need to say, okay, we've lost all the Trump appeals and all the cases we've thrown up. Here's the final one. Boom. Seized computers. And they'll go to federal court for that because it's international. So I think that would be federal for us. And they'll say here. So they'll have to go to SCOTUS, I assume. Or will there be a federal court? I don't think there's a federal jurisdiction that takes cases from outside the United States. That's, would have to go to the Supreme Court. So maybe that's like their ace in the hole. But they are getting a lot of information from these servers. So who knows? Who knows? I think Trump has them. I really do. The way he's acting and, like nothing's bad's going to happen. I think he's got him. I think he's taken that, the idea lawyers have is never ask a question you don't know the answer to. So when they ask you questions in court, they already know what the answer is. Did you murder your wife? They already know you did. Did you leave the bar early? They already know. They already have the proof. They just want to trap you in a response. And I think that's a technique Trump has used during this entire process when he has his traps. So right now, I think he's just going about his business, hoping these guys blunder into something and do something really stupid. But in the meantime, he'll just let the cases grind through and save his trump card for the end. 2020. Hang on. We're coming down another hill.